Dolphins are cute little creatures. We might see them at the beach or when we go to a marine exhibit like SeaWorld or in our favorite television shows like Flipper. Well, what if I told you that every year between the months of September and March, 23,000 dolphins are slaughtered in the coves of Taiji, Japan. Now, in order to prevent this event, when you look at three topics, in order to understand what is happening, we look at three main topics. Where this is happening and what happens to the dolphins once they are killed, how we can prevent this, and how it affects us. First off, where is this happening? When you enter Taiji, Japan, you might see dolphin statues or posters of whales, and it might appear that this is a town that actually loves dolphins, but this is just a cover-up that the government uses because most of the citizens don't even know what's going on. Every year, the fishermen create a wall with their boats out in the cove, and they put poles in the water and they bang on these poles when the dolphins are coming by during their migration patterns, and they slowly move the boats inwards toward the cove, and then eventually they're just hundreds of dolphins trapped there, and they just put up a net and they leave them, and then later marine biologists that like work at SeaWorld, they'll come and examine the dolphins and say, okay, I want this one, and they'll sell those dolphins for up to $150,000 each. Then they leave them. They come back the next day, and the fishermen slaughter them. And this happens daily. And actually, a quote from Richard O'Berry says that Taiji is the main provider for dolphins throughout the world. So these dolphins are just being captured and sold to exhibits like SeaWorld. And you might think, oh, well, that's not bad, they get to escape that. Well, actually, the stress caused on dolphins because of all the crowds and the noise levels causes them to have ulcers, and many of them die. They just keep buying new ones. So the smile of a dolphin is actually one of the biggest deceits. And what happens to the dolphins afterwards they are killed, they sell the dead ones for only $600 each. So yeah, the live ones are worth more, but they can sell a lot more of these than they can just a live dolphin. The problem is that what do they do with all these dolphins? Not many of us eat dolphin meat. I don't know if any of you ever heard of anyone eats dolphin meat, but that's because they're highly toxic with mercury. And mercury is the most toxic element on Earth that is not radioactive. And it actually contains 2,000 ppm of mercury, which means ppm stands for parts per million, and the recommended level of ppm is 0.04. That's over 50,000 times the recommended level of mercury. Which goes into my next point, how this affects us. You don't want this. In Taiji, actually, they use this dolphin meat in a lot of the schools, and they would give it to the kids. And mercury can cause deformities such as blindness or loss of hearing or facial deformities. And this has actually happened before. In an island called Minamata, they had this outbreak in the 80s where people were getting poisoned with mercury and kids were being born with all these deformities. And this may happen again. In 2006, a report in the journal Science predicts a total collapse of the world's fish stocks within 40 years. This is one problem, but by killing the dolphins, we're just adding to the problem. And fish is the main source of protein for the world. And if we deplete all of our supplies of dolphins and other fish, then we're never going to have those resources again. This leads you to my final point. How can we stop it? The main way we can stop this is by just bringing awareness to the problem. There's many websites available where you can join groups, such as the one that just came up recently, Kony. We can use our awareness of the problem to spread it so that other people put pressure on Japan to stop this. And this is proven to actually work. When the documentary The Cove came out in 2009, they actually suspended their season for that year. So no dolphins were killed that year that we know. And just a week ago from today was the end of this year's dolphin season because they did resume afterwards. only 800 dolphins were killed this year. So that's a major decrease from the 23,000 that they used to average all the time. In conclusion, we have examined how these dolphins are killed and what's happened to them afterwards, how it affects us, and what we can do to stop it. And I'd like to leave you with a quote from the director of the Cove. His name is Louis Sahoyos. He said, "You're either an activist or an inactivist. And today I want you all to think, which one are you? Are you going to help solve the problem, or are you just going to ignore it and go by and by?" Thank you.
Thank you.